Tina.
Yes.
Will you introduce our
I
next
will.
guest, please?
I'd like to introduce Darryl, spelled D-A-R-R-E-L-L.
No, one L.
One L.
Yeah,
There you
but
go.
better known as...
I like to be challenged, you see. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
there's a story about that, but I'm not going to
Adrian
come out with it here.
And Hull.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is two L's.
Yes, it is. Like
Definitely
the city.
has to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's fun, is that? Yeah, no, we'll talk about that another time. It's very, very confusing, was that?
Yeah.
But this is how people's names, quite often we like to give them the full title.
Yeah.
You've had a lot of trouble, haven't you, with sort of trying to work things out with DSS?
Yeah, the Department of Works and Pensions, yeah. To give, for those out there in BCB land, to give them a bit of background information, I was diagnosed with epilepsy quite late in life. You talk about when I was 38. I was up in Scotland, up in the Highlands of Scotland, and it was just found by accident by my ex-wife. But once I've learned it quite a lot about epilepsy. I probably have been suffering from it for the majority of my life.
Yes.
I say I was with my ex-wife at the time. She had clinical depression, and I ended up being a carer for about 8 years. I used to have my own copywriting business. I had to give it up to look after Anne. And it had a serious effect on my health because one of the big problems with epilepsy, there's so many different types of epilepsy, too much to go into here. But I ended up one of the big things about epilepsy, it doesn't matter whether you suffer from photosensitive epilepsy or whatever.
That's the flashing light things on telly,
right,
isn't it? Yeah.
One of the most common things is stress. Stress can bring on seizures. And it was the stress of being a carer 24 hours a day. Ended up with me and my ex-wife unfortunately splitting up. And the minute we split up, that was it. I was left. I used to claim carer's allowance as well as DLA. I had a lifetime award of DLA. And that was it. I lost my carer's allowance just like that overnight. And even though I had to, me and my wife split up because of my health, I was just told that that's it. I had to claim job seekers allowance. I mean, that was quite a kick in the teeth because it was like, I've been 8 years, I've been a carer, been looking after my ex-wife. And I know that sounds awful, but, for my ex, I would have,
thing,
I looked after her because I loved her. That wasn't the point. But it was this thing of, I wasn't well enough, but they didn't care. As far as Works and Pensions Department, they didn't care at all. So
you didn't tick the right box, did you?
That's it. So I had to. I was seen as available for work, although I wasn't capable of working. I moved down here about 8 years. I came back down here about 8 years ago, and I was eventually put on employment support allowance, and I mean at that particular time, I was near enough housebound because my epilepsy, I was having seizure after seizure after seizure, and I mean now. I am better. I can get out and about. I mean, I do 3 shows here. Do the gig guide on Thursday, afternoon stretch every alternate Friday, and acoustic Saturday every other month. But the thing is that if I'm not well, I'm not. Yes. I can take a back seat or just ring up or contact somebody and say, well, I'm not well today. And because, I don't know when my seizure is going to come. I could be all right one day and then have a seizure and then I'm housebound for the next 5 days.
Any premonition that it's going to be
some
there.
people do. It's what they call an aurora.
Yes.
But I don't. And because of that, I would say I was awarded with a lifetime award for employment for DLA. Now, with everything that's going on with welfare benefits reform, they brought in PIP, personal independence payment, and it's the first time this has ever happened to my knowledge, because I used to work in welfare benefits myself for the Sickness Advice Bureau, first time ever I've known that's happened. I mean, previously on a change between invalidity benefit and incapacity benefit, everybody that was on invalidity benefit stayed on that, and any new claimants then were put on incapacity benefit.
Yes.
But this is blanket. And I've heard so many horror stories from it that people are just being turned down right, left and centre. And this is what happened to me.
And it can bring all the stress
Well,
back
that's
on,
it.
can't it?
I mean, I've had more seizures than I've usually had because of the stress that this has had. And I was turned down. I got my letter on Saturday. It was dated the 4th of November. And I've got a month from the date of that letter to make an appeal. So I've already lost several days. Luckily, I did it through a disability organisation, Equality Now, which I must say, they are absolutely
Emerson
brilliant.
Walgrave and the lot, yes.
Yeah, they are wonderful, and they know their job.
It's their AGM
They certainly
today,
do.
you should be at that.
Yeah, they are great, and I can't thank them enough for that. But I'm left in quite dire straits. I've lost all my DLA, my employment support allowance. I have lost quite a lot of money from that. I am going to be quite destitute because I got a letter when I got the decision. Got a letter saying that my DLA stops from the 5th of December. That was followed up by a letter from ESA saying that I have lost my disability components of ESA from the 1st of December. So that is going to be
just
quite
before
a lot.
Christmas,
Yes.
they've cracked it
Yeah.
right, haven't they, in their
Now,
way?
a lot of I'm not allowed to drive because of my epilepsy. I'm not allowed to cook. So a lot of my money goes on travel. If I need it, I've got free bus pass, but there's sometimes when I have to get a taxi.
The buses aren't running, yeah.
But also, I get Wiltshire Farm Foods because I'm sure that it doesn't take a lot to imagine that if I've stood in front of a cooker and have a seizure, I could have the place on fire.
Yeah.
So it's scary. And the whole situation is absolutely appalling. I've been posting on Facebook on a couple of disability websites, and the stories that I'm hearing are quite heartbreaking. They really are, and there's no rhyme or reason for them to be turned down.
I noticed the feedback and the comments that were coming back on that when I saw it. Yeah.
So I mean,
so there are a lot of people out there who are just rallying with you, aren't there?
There are, and I'm very thankful to everybody for that. But one of the big problems is, and this is my experience as well, is that it's double hitting people with what's known as unseen illnesses. And you're not just talking about epilepsy. No. You're talking about MS, ME. You talk about fibromyalgia, mental health. I mean, as far as they're concerned, and I think this is why I got turned down.
Can't see it. It's not
That's
there.
it. I looked well. I went in on a good day, so there can't be anything wrong with me. Full stop.
Yeah.
But they don't see times when I've had a seizure and I'm just in the house. I cannot move I cannot leave the house. It's not safe for me for sometimes up to 7 to 10 days. Blackout blinds, I'm unsleeping. And when it comes down to it, who's going to employ somebody who they don't know when they're going to be in?
Oh, yes.
I could be in for 2 days, I could be out for 5, and I'll be accused of pulling a sickie.
Yes, yeah.
So
they've
it's
got that
quite scary.
responsibility of you being ill on work's premises as well,
Well,
then, don't they?
this is it. I mean, that brings up another issue.
Like if you fell, it's quite simple.
Yeah.
It might have been something that made you fall, and then that's claiming and all sorts.
But every company really should do a risk assessment. Now, I'm not going to name any places or any organisations because that's not fair. But I've had a situation where I was asked. I was told that they needed to do a risk assessment. But the idea of risk assessments is how the company or organisation can support you to work for them, make it safe. Now, what seems to be happening in this sort of environment we're in nowadays is that they're using that risk assessment as a way to come up with excuses of why for reasons not to employ you, and that is scary.
Oh yes.
And yes, there is disability legislation and one thing and another, but companies always find a way around it. I mean, I know from my CAB days, companies do when finding a way of dismissing somebody, they find a way around it, and this is happening so much, and it's scary, not just for me, but everybody out there with these unseen illnesses.
Yes.
And it's the lies that comes with it. I have a friend who's got fibromyalgia, and she had to go for PIP. She's had it turned down as well. And what they turned round in the report, they turned around and said, this person didn't have any problems walking into the centre. She didn't walk. She was actually pushed in a wheelchair. So, I mean, I'm in a bit of a better situation myself because of my friend's experience. I had my assessment recorded, and I've got it at home on CD.
Yes, good idea.
And everything that's come out on that report, because they've said, it doesn't take him long to recover. It doesn't take this and this, that, and the other. I can cook quite adequately, and everything has gone. Everything in this.
All the lies are on tape.
Yeah.
That's a good thing, isn't it, when you think.
So thankfully I've got that, but it's the stress, and you shouldn't be put through this. Yes. Nobody in similar situations to me should be put through this.
Was it difficult to tape that? Was it difficult to get hold of it? Or?
Well,
however,
at first I was they turned round and said I could request for the interview, to the assessment to be recorded, but I had to bring in my own equipment. And it had to be either equipment there I could record two CDs at the same time, or a cassette. I mean, it's very hard to do that, and I had a word with them about this, and they advised me, that I could get a cassette recorder on eBay, which I did. It cost me £35 for two, your old Walkmans sort of thing,
It's like the police do,
I got two of them.
Yeah.
And then, so I forked out for those. I forked out for the cassettes. Yeah. When I got there, I rang up first and I told them that I got it. And then when I turned up, they said, are the cassettes unsealed? So I said, well, no, because I wanted to make sure that they were that the machines are working. So they refused to use them. But then, magically, a double CD recorder appeared where they recorded it themselves.
Chic.
I'm sure it's all a way to put people off.
Yes.
To put as many stumbling blocks in front of people.
They should be paying for your recorder, shouldn't they?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, because I don't know how the DWP works, but I would have thought it was your right to have a copy of that interview.
Yeah.
Because it's your property.
Yes.
It's an interview with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're very hesitant to do this sort of thing.
As I say, I'm speaking from somebody who's never been involved with it, but to me, anything like that, where you have an interview which is recorded, you have a right, you come with the police.
Yeah, yeah. And why it isn't standard for them to be actually recorded, I do not know. But you've actually got to request. But it should be standard, because it's so much relies on these interviews.
Well, if it's not recorded, it's always going to be one word against the other. Yours against the interviewer. Yeah. And it seems so obvious that to avoid that, you record it. Because there can't be any arguments afterwards.
Well, that's it.
I've stopped doing like, when people ask you things online, like you ring up your insurance company or something, or a gas board or something, and they say, I said, no, can you, you've explained it to me, will you send it to me in an email now? Well, I've already explained, I said, will you send it to me in an email?
Yeah.
Well, that's a bit difficult. Oh, send it to me in the post. Oh, well, send me an email of it, and then, I can answer it back. And I say, I'm not just taking that as gospel that you've said. I want it in print. I'm getting a bit old and I'm going down this line telling them that I am, but I'm quite logical. I've all my chairs at home there, but I have all my chairs at home because I want it in print. I don't want to be thinking somebody said, oh, no, I didn't say that to her. No, it wasn't that. You really have to be adamant, don't you, to do
You
it?
have, and that seems to be, again, the sad way that things are going now, I went to see my epilepsy nurse on Monday. Thankfully, I had an appointment with her to see her, as I see her every 6 months. And she was saying that everybody with epilepsy, or majority of people, are being turned down. And I'm sure that it's on the proviso that they're hoping that a very small minority will appeal. There has actually been a High Court judgment made, and this was on the 2nd of November, where one of the highest judges has said that the DWP need to take more notice of people with epilepsy, because seizures can actually kill.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been quite lucky. The worst I've had is that I've lost my front tooth. I've had bangs, I've had scratches, and I class myself very lucky there. Because give you an example. I was in a pub a few months ago, and it was in one of these. The bar was one of these very high tables, and they had a very high.
High stool to sit up at it. Yeah.
Now,
daftest thing they've ever put in
That's it,
pubs.
yeah. Now, I was enjoying the evening, listening to some live music, and then a friend of mine came in. Sorry, I nearly swore there. I was very lucky that he did do at the time, because I never saw him. I was never aware of him even arriving until I felt his arm round me and reassuring me that was all right. Now, if he hadn't been there, he must have noticed that I was about to have a seizure. Now, if I had come off that stool and landed on a concrete floor.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to me, government departments are in contradiction with each other, because, as you said earlier, you lost your licence to drive. The LVA recognise that if you have seizures, you can't drive, which has been in charge of a mechanical instrument, in effect.
And I'm also not, sorry to butt in there, but I'm also not allowed to do any job that involves using machinery.
Sure, exactly. So that immediately reduces the range of activities that you can take part in.
Yeah.
They can't have it both ways. They can't say you're not capable of doing it, but yes, you are capable of doing it.
Yeah, well, that's it.
It's a contradiction.
Yeah, but I think that falls on with everything. I say it's not just epilepsy, it's anybody with these unseen illnesses. And this idea that PIP is supposed to make sure that the people that really need the benefits get them, it's just an excuse to get people benefits, full stop.
Well, I think this is what's happening with this new system that they're bringing in, where they've rounded up a whole load of different benefits and then subject people to a test to see if they can qualify for the new one.
Yeah.
And the numbers are vastly reduced of people who can claim because of that. And of course, the idea, which to me is wrong, is you have to wait 6 weeks before you can get the benefit. Now, to me, I mean, I'm just a layman, but to me that's taking 6 weeks benefit from everyone, because there's nothing to stop them, if they were receiving one of the other benefits, running that on until such times as the new one came in.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be logical. You can't just cut off somebody's supply of money and say, all right, for 6 weeks you've got to survive. You're going to starve to death in 6 weeks.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And also, the other side it mentioned is, now it looks as though, I mean, it shouldn't do, but because I've been turned down for personal independence payments, I'm probably going to lose my ESA, Employment Support Allowance, completely. I've already lost the disability side of that. And, I mean, it's like myself, I mean, I'm 57, which isn't that very old, really, but who's going to take on somebody like myself who hasn't worked officially, because caring for a loved one or anybody isn't in receiving care allowance isn't classed as work.
No.
So who's going to employ me over somebody else who's just been made redundant, who has no break in that in the work history?
Yes.
I mean, it's a serious problem.
Because it's a hard thing to get back into the routine of doing a 9-to-5 job, I should imagine, as well, when you've had a very inflexible sort of off, very flexible at times, that you've been up every hour, funny hours that people don't, and all of a sudden, this kind of odd life that you've lived for so long, and all of a sudden it's something really regimented. It's kind of a bit hard.
Yeah. Because, I mean, that is funny you should say that. I mean, as far as, getting to a routine and I mean, the whole of work...
Sleep pattern and everything, isn't it?
I mean, my sleep pattern's totally out the window because I'm on... I mean, the reason why I still suffer from seizures is that it's a double-edged sword. It's either sedate me give me so much medication where I can't cope. Can't cope, I'm just in bed all day, or I put up with a few seizures. I've been through every single epilepsy drug you can think of. I've had serious side effects, my gums are swollen up, I've had toxic reactions. I mean, some of them have been really nasty. Now, the only serious side effect I know of this, on the drugs now, because I'm on the top end of 2 different drugs because I cannot manage just one. And I mean, they are sedatives, whichever way you want to look at it. This, the heavy sedatives. And there's a lot of times when I just need to just sleep. I mean, I was out with a friend the other day, and my head was going, my eyes were going, because I was that shattered. And it is because of the medication, which it's affected my concentration. Where I used to work for the CAB, I used to do representation in the county court. I could go through the most complicated letters and paperwork you could think of, because it was my job to put things in plain English for clients. Now I can just about manage a paragraph and that's it, because my concentration is so bad. And that's going to be a lifetime. I did wonder that whether it be other things, but I've had it confirmed by the epilepsy service as well as my GP that this is side effects of the drugs. I cannot come off the drugs because otherwise I'll have seizure after seizure after seizure, and it's just...
They're like sort of lots of absences, aren't they? My friend Heather, she had stuff, and the medication she was on. I remember I went to a concert at Square Chapel, and as far as Alan's sitting away from me, sort of about, 4 foot, 5 foot maybe, we were sat on the front row, and the conductress was in front of us with a little sort of podium thing, and her bag was there, and Heather said that she's going to fall over that bag in a bit. And then the next minute, Heather had her head right down on her knees, asleep. And I'm like, what? And these people are singing, and the music's playing, and everything. And I kept, nudge, come on. But she did. She'd go so long, and then she just had to go to sleep. It was... she could have gone to sleep crossing the road, I think. In fact, I often wonder if she had done, because she had a lot of falls. And that's one of the things. It's not just the falling, it's what happens to you. She broke her humerus 3 times when she fell. Each time.
I mean, because I live on my own, there's been occasions when I've had to go out to get some shopping. I'm very lucky. Although I live on my own, I've got some friends around, good friends around, who'll be there just when I need it. I'm very lucky at that. But there are times, because I live on my own, I don't have any choice. And I was walking up to Sainsbury's to get some needed food, and I didn't realise the lights had changed because my concentration, and I nearly ended up under a bus and a car. You know, and it's things like that. It's not necessarily the seizure itself.
Yeah.
It's the side effects and the recovery part.
Absolutely.
You know, that is the big problem with all this. You know, and nothing, you know, not enough is appreciated with that. I mean, I'm sure that there are a lot of people that I live in a complex of flats and maisonettes, and I'm sure that a lot of people think that there's nothing wrong with me because I look well, but they only see me when I'm well. They don't see me when I'm, you know, when I've just lying around in my joggies or my pyjamas. I've got all my blackout blinds round. I don't have the telly on. I don't have any music on because the sound is really bad. The light affects me.
Rather like sort of when migraine. I used to get migraine years and years ago, and that I just had to go to bed for 3 days because it just like. I just think I don't want to answer the phone, and I'd take that off, and I'd leave the door, take the doorbell off, and everything. Yeah. I just needed to get better, and it's each body knows its own way, doesn't it?
Well, that's it. I mean,
but when you're involved with having to go and try and get work somewhere, well, that's another stress on top of it.
Because I mean, again, for those out in BCB land, to try and give you an idea, when you have a seizure. It's like your brain short-circuiting. I mean, if you think of a surge of electricity, you know, if say, you know, every house has gone through a surge, you know, at some point or another, you don't get them as many times now. But also, you know, see, you surge after a lightning strike that comes out, and that is what's happening to your brain. You know, it's a massive surge, you know, and there's no way to compare.
It's forced to do something with it, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, and it's a horrible thing to have to put up with.
So are you going to sort of get some petitions or something
Yes,
together?
yeah. I mean, I've already gone to the Equality Now to ask, and they're going to support me doing a mandatory, what's it called? It's reconsideration, mandatory reconsideration it's called.
Yeah.
What I've done, I've posted a lot of information on various Facebook pages that there's a lot of people commenting on them, and some of the stories are actually heartbreaking and scary. You know about people being turned down, why they've been turned down, the consequences of them being turned down. I've got I'm doing the Friday afternoon stretch a week tomorrow. And I've got Epilepsy Action ringing up to have a chat with me.
Very good.
I've got somebody else who's gone through a similar situation, who's been featured in the TNA. Sorry, that's my phone. I must turn it off. I thought I turned it off. Somebody that's got turned down. She was in the TNA, so I'm looking at her coming in and having a chat with us. I'm going to do some videos of me when I'm well, videos of me if I'm capable of doing it, because it's not always that positive of what I'm like when I've had a seizure.
Darryl, one of the questions you said earlier on that you get two elements of your payments stopped in December, beginning of December, 1st and 4th, I think you said. What happens then? I mean, do they just leave you without money?
Yeah.
Or what happens?
Yeah. That's it. That's it. I mean, no, I still get a small amount of employment support allowance.
And that goes on until the result of your... it might go on beyond that because you would prejudging the result of your appeal. But that appeal can take quite a while, can't it?
It can do. But then, because this is where it gets a bit murky, because I've been seen as fit, I'm not seen as having no disability. I've lost the disability component of my employment support allowance. Now, I don't, because this is all new territory. These are things that have never ever happened before, and they brought in a lot of things that, you know, are unknown quantities. Now it shouldn't do, but it has done for a lot of people where it can affect people's employment support allowance. It could be that I'm kicked off employment support allowance and have to apply for universal credit.
Wow, yes.
Which is frightening in itself, and because universal credit, I know one or two people that have been on it or still on it, and they have got to apply for so many jobs and prove that they're applying so many jobs, and again, who's going to take me on if they know I've got epilepsy anyway? And they will they will make some excuses. There's no doubt about it.
This is what I was getting at. I mean, it's all right, the grandees in Westminster deciding that they will do things, but it's the repercussions on the people that are affected that they don't seem to consider.
No, and there have been people that have actually taken their lives because of this.
I'm sure.
I mean, that's been documented down.
I think the thing with the jobs, you sort of go along, say you have to go for a job interview, and rather than them ask you loads of questions, I think the first thing is, you just can say, don't you, I'm an epileptic, are you willing to take me on? And if you're not, just let's go any further, because I don't want to go through all this system and the stress of finding out in 20 minutes that you're going to say, well, you're not exactly what we need.
But you see, as far as legislation is concerned, they cannot literally turn me down because I've got a disability like epilepsy. But they will find a way around it. There's no doubt about that.
I mean, I know there are people who take advantage of it, because I remember doing an interview one time with a young lad who'd been sent up from job seekers, and the first question we asked was, what do you think you could contribute to our organisation? Which is fairly standard. And he just sat there and said, not very much. He obviously was there, not because he wanted to be, because he'd been sent there. And he had no intention of bothering about whether he got the job or not. And that was the end of the interview, because how do you interview somebody who's not interested?
I
So
mean,
there are people like that, but that doesn't tar everybody with the same brush.
I mean, now you're found guilty first thing. There's no two ways about that. It's the far-reaching thing, because because there's been so much in the media and so much rhetoric by the government. Everybody, I mean, the whole of society basically, it looks on you, as a shirker basically.
It must lower your esteem as well, mustn't it, down the line?
I mean, with that, I've done a lot of interviews, but that's the only time I've come across that. But nevertheless, he wasn't interested. As far as he was concerned, he'd been sent for an interview. That was it. I get out of it by saying not very much. So he'd go back and said, well, they don't want me.
He filled the requirement, didn't he? Went for it.
Well, that's it. And I've come across people like that. I mean, my work with CAB, we used to get people who've been turned down for benefit or been sanctioned or whatever. And you do get your odd person, but it's not that widespread when it comes down to it. But you do get them, and you always will do. It doesn't matter how much you tighten these benefits. You'll always get people who play the system, just like companies play the system as far as disability legislation is concerned. They always find a way of getting around that. And it's scary. It really is scary. I mean, I'm scared to death. I'm terrified, basically. And this is why I'm thinking, I'm going to come out fighting. I am not going to lose this.
Don't let it win.
I'm not going to let them get by. So, I've got a lot of things going on. As I say, got Epilepsy Action coming on the show week on Friday. I've got a lot of things going on Facebook.
And if you weren't like that, it would turn your life the other way, wouldn't it? You'd go into a deeper depression or something, and maybe that would cause more fits and so on.
I mean, there's no doubt about it. I can feel myself dipping. I mean, thankfully, as I say, I've got some really good friends. I've got no family around, but I've got some good friends who are like family, and I'd be lost without them. I get a lot of support from, thankfully. I mean, I feel sorry for people who don't have that support. It must be terrifying.
We had a neighbour who lived next door to us when we first got married, and these people came in, and then I had 2 young children, and they asked us to go on holiday with them. And I just thought she was a perfectly tall, strapping guy, you know, and she was a right little tiny woman. And we went on holiday, and there were 2 girls, you know, so we were in these bunk beds, and my daughter was in mine, and the other daughter with the other girls, and 2 fellas was on the couch and floor outside. And we went to the beach one day, and they were moving, you know, deck chairs, and all of a sudden he sort of sat on it and he moved it, and his scream came out, blood went spurting all over the place, and he trapped his finger in it, and she went, "Oh my gosh," she said, "Quick, you have to help us, get the cameras, quick. And we're saying, right, okay, so we're doing it. It's just, he's got to have a fit, and he had grand mal, did this guy. So, I mean, they just thought that would go like take him over the top, and they took him to hospital. Come back, you would have thought he'd have had his whole hand bandaged. It was as big as your fist was the thing that was on his thumb, which his thumb had got caught in. It didn't break it, thank goodness. But I mean, I think my husband just held the thing up, you know, with his weight on. But we didn't know that. And she said, she says, at times, she says, what I was worried with it being in a big place like you're on the beach, what people, you know, they just think it's something really weird, don't they? Go the foaming at the mouth and they get all the wrong way around. But we couldn't understand her. She dealt with it on her own sometimes, where he'd fall on the floor and stuff, and she had to really sit on his chest. And she was a little thin, 7-stone woman, you know. And bless her, she used to get on with it really well. And he went into medication, loads of it. And then he thought, it's driving me, I'm having too much of this. So he just decided all on his own, he was going to cut all his medication out, and he did. And she said, you could kill yourself. He said, I don't care. He said, I'm not having it. I'm doing this. And about 2 years later, he actually could apply for his driving licence. And you think, how daft is that? You know, all these years they kept pumping him with tablets, and it wasn't doing a bit of good, really. I mean, it might have been, but there are some people where it go the wrong way, but it's happened with that. We couldn't believe that he got it, because he said, I can't drive, when we drove to Scarborough, where we were. And Colin said, do you want to drive? Oh, I said, I'm not allowed to drive. And that was, you know, how it worked.
Yeah, I mean, as far as legislation is concerned, anybody that hasn't had a seizure for 12 months can apply for their licence.
Provisional thing, you have to take your test again, don't you, and everything, I
mean, the fact of it is, I never will have be seizure free. That's part of it, but part of the problem. But you know, some people do. I mean, I've known people have, be seizure free, but
there's not enough. What could I say? There's not enough information out there, because when I started work when I was 16, and we used to, there was a cleaner in the telephone exchange. I remember one day I said, there's a man outside, he's being sick and all this, and somebody says, no, he ain't, he's foaming at the mouth and all. And somebody went out and they called the ambulance, and this guy was in a really mad, grand mal thing outside. But we'd no idea. We'd seen him day after day after day, didn't know nothing wrong with him, and then all of a sudden there it was. But I have another friend who gets epileptic fits as well. And what he said is he knows it's coming on sometimes, like you said at dawning, didn't you, Aurora? Yeah, an Aurora, And he like sits down and he'll just say, just leave me alone, you know, I know, I'm okay. And then sometimes he's not. I finished up in hospital when he were abroad in Corfu this year. But people go, quick, get an ambulance. Yeah. And by the time the ambulances usually come, it's gone. You know, and he says a number of times, and the ambulance get really cross about it because they don't like being called out to, because it's like a false call.
There's not a lot anybody can do.
No.
And I think that's one of the things that Works and Pensions Department think about, and you know, some people think about is that, you haven't got to go into hospital, there mustn't be anything wrong. Well, I'm just lucky that I haven't.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
and you haven't broken your arm when you fell, sort of thing.
But I mean, when somebody has a seizure, all you can do is just to let them recover. There's nothing else, you know, you can do at all. But I mean, something just thought about it when you were telling me about this this friend of yours. Say it's people's attitude. I don't hide my seizures. I don't hide the fact I have epilepsy. It's part of my life, you know, and I don't think I should have to. But there was one time when me and my ex were together. We were living in a little town in the Scottish borders, and I was taking my dogs out for a walk, and I had my alarm set on my mobile phone just to remind me to take my tablets, because the thing about the epilepsy is that you need to take your tablets at the same time every day, because it's a way of you know, trying to control it as best you can. And this woman just turned around and says, "Oh, it's just somebody trying to ring you." So I said, "No, I've got epilepsy. It's just to remind me to take the tablets." Well, I couldn't believe it. She took one step back, looked me up and down, says, "You don't
she's going
seem
to
to have
catch
that. You don't seem to have that sort of look." So I didn't realise somebody with epilepsy ever had, has that as a type of look, and that's the scary thing.
I think that taking your tablets as well at that specific time, your body knows when it's going to need that, so it has to take it then.
That's
and there
it.
are a lot of people who think, I'll just take it an hour or two later. And like my friend Heather used to forget a lot with hers, and I think that's when she used to fall a lot.
Yeah.
But I think it's rather like your car, it knows when it's got this little gauge down that it wants some petrol in and it can manage the next few miles. Yeah. And that's really why, if anybody's listening, and they don't keep their tablets.
And I mean, that's a good point to make, is that you might not have a seizure for a long time, but you need to keep taking your tablets, because there are two issues there, like you were mentioning about keeping you well and making sure, because the tablets are working. But also the other thing is that it's the problems of coming off the tablets, and the side effects from that can be as bad
that would be awful.
as going cold turkey. Sort of thing. And that is a scary thing. So it is very important for everybody, anybody that's got epilepsy. Well, you got across any illness actually. If you do take your tablets, if you think about coming off them, you need to get medical supervision for that.
Now, is there an epileptic society where people can go if they need to?
Yes, there is. Epilepsy Action.
Meet others.
Yeah, Epilepsy Action are very, very good. They're based in Yeadon. I couldn't tell you the exact contact details.
That's fine, love, let people
but you
look
can
that
Google
up,
them. There used to be the British Epilepsy Association, but they're known as Epilepsy Action now.
Sounds
and
good,
they are really good. They have a fantastic
Sounds very positive.
helpline.
Action.
They have a fantastic helpline. You can get all sorts of leaflets. You can download them from the internet, or you can have them sent to you. They are absolutely brilliant. And it's somebody from Epilepsy Action is going to call me on Friday to have a chat.
That'd be good. So what time would that be if anybody now is listening and think they'd like to hear it?
It'll be between 2 and 4. I haven't
Just
sorted
between
out
2
the
and
time
4,
yet,
right? Yeah.
because.
So there'll be a lot of other good stuff on listeners out there. Don't just think it's just got to be all that. But I'm sure Daz has got lots of wonderful stuff here.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody is listening here that listens to me the afternoon stretch, there is the usual features on local artists, features on artists further afield, what happened this day in musical history. So there'll be a lot of things like that. But I think it's very important that we do get this message
over,
across.
You see, there might be a lot of artists as well who are suffering from this. So when they come forward, Elton
John suffered from it.
Wow.
And there are a number of very well-known people in history. There's a Scottish rugby player that suffers from it. So there is a lot of people out there. Just Google, famous people with epilepsy, and the list.
You'd be surprised about, won't you?
Yeah. I mean, if anybody wants to join in with mine, they can get in touch with me through Twitter at Daz In The Hat, all one word, and
DAZ in the hat.
Yeah, and Daz In The Hat on Facebook as well.
Yes. Okay.
And also listen to the show.
Yeah.
I am looking for people who have been in similar situations to come on the show, and also maybe get involved in my
pioneering something to get it sorted
in my
out.
Video, YouTube campaign and things like that. So I am trying to get the word out there and trying to get things moving on.
I'm so glad you were in the studio and you weren't busy. You weren't busy. Yeah. Well, you were a little bit busy, weren't you? But I think it's been really productive as this.
I really appreciate you both asking me in, because I want to get this word out.
I thought it needed it as soon as I heard about it.
I think it's very, very important.
Yeah. There's a numerous people when it's coming forward that it's happening to, isn't it? One thing I will ask is it hereditary in any way?
Not that I know of. No, it isn't hereditary. I don't know what brought this on. I mean, I was only diagnosed when I was 38, which was quite late in life. knowing what I know now about epilepsy, I'm sure I've been suffering from majority of my life.
But people wouldn't have noticed it then, would they? Because it wasn't a
no,
word.
It wasn't as known.
You know.
No.
Well, sometimes these things happen. I mean, Tina knows the old fellow that I used to help.
Yeah.
And he had, I know it's different, but he had 2 strokes. The second one forced him into a nursing home. But when they did the scan, they said he'd had a number of strokes, mild ones, that left scars on the brain, so they could tell that he'd had them. But he didn't even know about them.
No, that's it. But I mean, as far as epilepsy is concerned, sometimes, I mean, I've had MRIs, I've had CAT scans, and nothing's ever shown up. But that's more common than people realise. The type of epilepsy I've got is called idiopathic. And what idiopathic means is that nobody knows what causes my seizures, which is like a double-edged sword. Like somebody with photosensitive epilepsy, Tina, you were mentioning before, that people know to avoid those sort of things.
To warn you, don't they, when they don't got these big gigs
That's
on,
it.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a double-edged sword because I can do things that I enjoy. I can use a computer and everything that some people can't do. I can potter about with photographs, videos, again, that a lot of people can't do. But
So it's
what's
not
hard,
to do visually there.
No.
It could be sort of
who
something
knows?
totally different.
That's who
couldn't it?
knows. I mean, the only thing I've wondered is that when I was little, my left hand was paralysed. And as far as I've never got down to the bottom of that with my mother, but as far as I know, I was in hospital for 6 years.
And
For
you
not 6 years,
right-handed
six
or
months.
left-handed now?
6 months. Yeah,
Wow.
I'm right-handed.
You're right-handed because
but I've
of
got
that,
no
do you think?
dexterity in my left hand.
No.
I mean, I know that people were on the radio and you can't see it,
No.
but my fingers are
Curve
bent.
up, yeah.
Are totally
Yeah.
bent, and I can't move my fingers individually.
Yes.
So I did wonder whether it was something to do with
Really,
that.
very early on that set it
yeah.
off, yeah.
But we can't get the medical records that far. I mean,
No.
you're talking about 60s, so.
Yeah.
Thank you very much
thank you.
indeed,
Oh,
Darren.
thank you. I really appreciate you both inviting me on to talk about this.